I know Nick Saban didn't want to hear this, but in theory, Alabama's got a pretty easy game this weekend. So who do you want to see get that extra playing time?
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back into Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson, that's me. Jimmy Stein, that's him. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. I will talk to you about PrizePicks in just a bit, and thank you for making us your first listen every single day. We are your number one source for all things Bama. So, Jimmy, we've got what they call Cupcake Weekend. Chattanooga fans may take offense, and I'm sorry that you do, but you are. And it may be close for a little bit, but in the end, I mean, hopefully Alabama's going to pull away. And if that happens, and when that happens, there's some guys we want to see get some run. I mean, we know what Jalen Milroe can do at this point. Know what Dallas Turner can do. But we want to see some of the guys that, maybe we've been clamoring for. Maybe, I don't know, I'll start with Justice Haynes. What do you think?
Right. I think Haynes and Dylan Lonergan jump to the top of the list for me. I don't mean to start on offense. I'm kind of a defense guy, but I do think those two are interesting. I don't know, if we'll have a look at Lonergan doing anything but handing off to Justice Haynes and Richard Young, but I do think we'll get a look at them, hopefully. But I'm also into a couple of defensive dudes. What about some of these outside linebackers that all have redshirted? Keon Keely, Yanze Pierre, and Quay Russaw all have redshirted, so they can all play, and they're not blowing a red shirt. I think we would like to take a look at them. Based on what I hear, I think all three are going to be contributors as soon as next season. I think all three might be significant special teams players next year. I don't know that any of them will be ready to be first-team players, which might surprise some people, but I'll just go ahead and lay that out there right now. Based on what I hear right now, I don't know that Keely, Russaw, and Pierre will be first-team players in the spring. Right now, I think, if Q Robinson comes back, I think he's one. I think one guy that's one of the better players in the roster that no one ever talks about is Keanu Coot. I think he could be in the mix for a starting spot. There's some talk that Braswell will come back. That shocks me. I'd be a little surprised, but there is talk that Chris Braswell could come back. If so, he's clearly the number one dude at the spot.
Why would he come back though?
Feeling like he is close to being a first-round pick, and if he comes back, he can cement it. And a history of Alabama linebackers that have stayed, and it really paid off for them. Reuben Foster, Reggie Ragland, CJ Mosley, a lot of guys became Ryan Anderson. A lot of guys became first-round picks because they came back. And I've heard those two arguments being made and being presented to Braswell as to why he should return. So I'm not ruling that out. But if you're asking me right now, Jimmy, is Chris Braswell staying or going? I'm saying he's going. That's my answer. But there's talk that he could be back. Q Robinson will participate in senior day, which is a little concerning because I think he needs to come back. I'll be frustrated if he leaves. I'll think it's a big mistake. And I would even say, hey man, if you don't want to be here, fine, portal out, but don't go pro early. I think he'd be making a huge mistake. So those are just a few names.
When you bring up Q Robinson, and by the way, no relation.
Y'all are both tall.
Both tall.
Sure.
That's where the similarities stop. But he's still best known for trying to pick up a punt against Tennessee that cost Alabama 7 points. I mean, I'm happy for him. I want him to succeed. I do. Mm-hmm. But I'm curious, and just because, by the way, we've talked about this in a previous podcast this week, just because he takes place in senior day doesn't necessarily mean he won't be back. maybe he just wants to have 2 senior days. I don't know. Do you get 2 framed jerseys if you do 2 senior days?
I believe you do. I believe you do. I think Will Reichard's going to get another one tomorrow, and Darian Dalcourt was out there last year too. Here's the thing about participating in senior day when people are going, why are they reading into that? That's no big deal because people participate in senior day and they come back every year. That's true. And just because you participate doesn't mean that you're not coming back. I would just point out that there are 2 seniors on the roster, Trey Amos and Christian Story, who already opted out. They've already said, I'm not doing senior day. I mean, to me, that's an implicit announcement that they plan to return. So Q doesn't have to do the senior day thing. If he's coming back, he doesn't have to do it. Trey Amos and Christian Story aren't. So that's my point, is Q is obviously considering leaving, or he wouldn't be participating in senior day. He would be like Amos and Story saying, nah, I'm coming back. So I just think, I hope some guys come back selfishly because I'm pro Alabama, not pro Seattle Seahawks. So I hope that Malachi Moore comes back. I hope that Braswell comes back, but I understand if they don't. I get it. But Q, I will not get. I won't get that because in my mind, he might be a pro football player. He might be. But if he goes pro now, I would give him almost 0 chance of being drafted. And when you're not drafted, that's a tall ladder to climb. I know that fans will go, well, what about Eli Ricks? Okay, what is the percentage of non-drafted players that make a team? It is low. The percentage of players that make a team who are drafted, virtually 100%. Virtually. It's not, but it's close.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I would tend to think maybe this means he's leaning or at least considering portaling out versus going pro. Again,
could be.
I have a hard time understanding if he feels like he's getting advice to go pro. I just don't get it.
And even portaling out, Q, assuming Turner and Braswell leave, you're the number 1 guy. He's been a first-team player all year. I know some people don't look at that like Q's not a first-team player. Yeah, he is. Because when Alabama's in the Raptor package, when Alabama calls out the Raptor package, he goes out there. That, to me, is first team. If you're the extra tight end in goal line, you're first team because when the goal line package is out there, you're out there with the first team. So Q is a first team player in the Raptor. And that basically, in fact, just says, okay, he's the 3rd outside linebacker right now. And the 2 ahead of him are almost certainly ahead of the NFL. So I don't understand if he portals. Unless he's, oh my gosh, I hate these people. I must get away from them. My life is miserable because, someone's tormenting me. Maybe that's happening. I don't know.
Really quickly, when we come back, we're going to talk about just some odd and end things in college football that affect Alabama or that are SEC or playoff related, because there's a lot of interesting stuff out there. But I do want to tell everybody about PrizePicks. But before I do, the other day I told you guys that my team, my girls' team, won the championship, and I didn't put the picture up. And there it is right there. You see that gigantic? How about that trophy, man?
You and your crew.
That's my daughter on the way looking at it, the way left, my way right in the picture. And she's the one that's sort of standing by herself pointing at you because she is not lacking of confidence. But the big trophy we were holding was great because the parents actually, one of the parents got that for us. And at first I thought like the BUSA organization had gotten that for us. And I was like, oh my God, because it had all our names on it. I was like,
so nice.
Holy cow. I was like, I'm sort of digging playing in Mountain Brook. You get these big old trophies. I was like, I'm used to being in LA City where I got a certificate when I was younger.
That's right. Can you believe the mayor passed this as a budget expense?
All right, let me tell everybody about PrizePicks. This is so much fun. With basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections with PrizePicks. What is PrizePicks? Well, it's like the number 1 daily fantasy sports platform in North America. It is number 1, as Jimmy is pointing out. With the basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League, a league created specifically for combo projections that includes 2 or more players from different sports or leagues. For example, LeBron James plus Travis Kelce, a 10.5 combo 3-pointers made, plus number of times he kisses Taylor Swift. Kidding, plus receptions. If you want to play alongside PrizePicks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and comedian Andrew Schultz, you can now find community plays under promo tabs of the app to view entries from some of the biggest names in the PrizePick community each and every week. This is just so much fun. The app is so easy to use. If I can use it, you can use it. I promise you that. Jimmy and I are not tech savvy, and this is for anybody. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege. Use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege. Use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege. Jimmy, so just some interesting stuff odd and in college football. Well, first of all, was there anybody else you wanted to see? I'll tell you a guy that I'm hoping for that you didn't mention that is sort of in those same that realm of position that we've been talking about the most with Deonze Pierre, Braswell. Obviously we see a lot of Braswell, but he's interesting. Quindarius Robinson, Keon Keely, is Jeremiah Alexander.
Yes.
This is a guy, you want to talk about somebody that I'm waiting for that light to click on. I saw him in high school and he was awesome. And I don't know why it's not transitioning to the next level yet. It hadn't. And maybe it's just because he's got some serious dudes in front of him. That may be it. But I want to see, I think it's going to take a game like Chattanooga where he makes a play that turns on. That is so crucial. People don't understand. Like, you can have all the talent in the world, but until you make a play where you go, oh, I can play here, I belong, then you might not be playing because you're so worried about, am I in the right position? Am I in containment, or am I rushing? Am I doing the right thing? Or you don't trust your instincts. You've got to learn to trust your instincts, and that's all about confidence. So I'm really hoping he has a moment in this game where things click.
Yeah, I think he's one of the most interesting players on the entire roster. I think he's good. I think he's even really good. I think his primary problem, as you already pointed out, Luke, is there's guys ahead of him that he's just not going to beat out. Right now he's been moved to inside linebacker, and he's not going to beat out Campbell and Lawson and Trez, even Blackshire. He's not going to move ahead of them. And before he was moved inside, he was outside. And he's certainly not going to move ahead of Turner, Braswell, or even Q. So he's stuck for now. But as we know, a lot of those guys are moving on to pro football. I think this spring is critical for Jeremiah in terms of, is he ever going to be a first-team player at Alabama? And I think the spring is almost a do-or-die time for him, almost. I'm probably over-dramatizing there, but I think it's close. And the first question I'm going to have as far as Jeremiah goes, Luke, is he going to play inside or outside? Right now he's inside. If he plays against Chattanooga, it will be as an inside linebacker. That's where he's been recently, and that's where he's practicing. So that's where he's going to be. Now in the spring, are they going to move him back outside where there's more opportunity because Turner and Braswell or even Q have all moved on and now there's opportunity there? Or are they going to keep him inside? And I'll just go ahead and say, since he probably doesn't listen to the show, he should, but he probably doesn't. In terms of like a concern I would have, like my question mark for him is, if it doesn't work out, I know he's good. I know he's a good player. I think ultimately it doesn't work out. It's like, well, he didn't really have a spot. He wasn't clearly an outside guy or clearly an inside guy. And let's always remember, bring up this point again when the spring rolls around and we're talking about the NFL draft, Luke. Scheme with the front seven guys means everything. Scheme means everything. You've got to be the round hole fitting in the round peg for it to work out in the NFL. So are you a outside end in a 4-3? Are you a two-gap defensive lineman? Are you an inside backer if you're in a 3-4, but you're not really going to be a Mike in a 4-3? That's all critical stuff. And it's a critical thing at Alabama. You have to fit in the scheme. And with Jeremiah, I'm like, what spot is his? The fact they've moved him around, it might not be a great sign.
I got it. I caught it just in time.
It was one word. I don't even think I should have said anything. And in fact, it was one word. The people enjoy it.
All I said was yeah. And you could even make the argument that I was doing it silently, not muted, but yeah. I was muted.
You did it rhetorically. It was a rhetorical, yeah.
Exactly. But okay, so you're right, and it makes me sad because here's the other thing, and I mean this in the nicest way because I love all things AHSA. I want some of these Thompson dudes to pan out a little more, you know. And I'm not taking a shot at Thompson. I don't want anybody who's thinking that. Thompson is. I get to watch them a lot. They are superstars.
The juggernaut.
And gosh, I want them to be. And I don't think it's Alabama lack of development. Alabama does a great job developing players. We see it all the time. And I don't know why it's not translating to the next level with superstardom.
Me neither. Now, some of them have been pretty good, just maybe not necessarily at Alabama. I mean, Talia has had a heck of a career, at Maryland. He's one of the all-timers at Maryland, frankly. And I'll tell you what, a couple of young Thompson guys I'd bet on. I think Anquan Fagans is going to be a fantastic college player. I really think so. Anquan Fagans, who's a 2025. And, of course, Trent Seaborn is probably the most famous ninth grade quarterback in the history of the state. Trent Seaborn certainly on track to have a big-time college career one day. But it is crazy, Luke, that with seemingly for a while, it seemed like every year the number one prospect in the state was from Thompson, understandably. And it is a great program, so well coached by Mark Freeman and his crew. But, and again, I think Jeremiah's good. I am refused as much as I just went on that soliloquy. Does he have a spot? Is he ever going to start? I'm 100% convinced this is a good football player. He's good. Now, is he good enough to beat out the dude who's number one? And does he clearly have a spot? Is he a Jack? Is he a Will? Is he a Mike? I think we're 3 years in now asking the question, and that's not necessarily a great sign. But I know this kid is good. We get kids who ends up they're overrated, and it ends up they're like, he's just not good enough to beat Alabama. Jeremiah is absolutely not one of those good kids. I think I've already seen enough, whether it's scrimmages, A-Day, or garbage time in games. He's a good player, and I hear things from inside the program. I mean, he's good. No doubt he's good. It's just, is he good enough? Because that bar is pretty high at Nick Saban's Alabama.
All right, this segment went a little differently than I thought it would, but that's okay. I mean,
I think it's been a good one.
Yes, I like it. I like talking about guys that we want to see really get going. Now, what we're going to do in the next segment is we're going to talk about some of those little funky college football odd and end things that I wanted to discuss. And we're going to do that when we come back. But right now, I want to tell everybody about athleticbrewing.com. Go check them out. Now it's time for your Game Changer of the Week, brought to you by Athletic Brewing Company. Much like, how about I say Dallas Turner, since he's participating in Senior Day. Athletic Brewing Company has completely changed the non-alcoholic beer game. They make non-alcoholic beers that actually taste good. And I promise you they do. I've ordered some, but they've also sent me some. I mean, full disclosure, because they let us try them. And, I don't always want to just have a drink. Sometimes I just want to relax. And this is the way to do it. Athletic Brewing, they have these delicious flavors. I promise you'll love them. Their brews are great tasting and award-winning. They beat out full-strength beers in global competitions all the time. They brew over 50 styles of craft non-alcoholic beer, including IPAs, golden, sours, and more. They're constantly releasing limited edition experimental styles to add to their variety. They're fit for all times. So you can drink them anytime, anywhere, and make any activity even more enjoyable, like watching a big game like Chattanooga, or your kids' game if your daughter happens to win the soccer championship. Tackling work or working out. There's never any hangovers with Athletic Brewing. So look, you can find Athletic Brewing Company's non-alcoholic brews at a store near you or buy online at athleticbrewing.com. First-time customers can use code LOCKEDON to get 15% off your order. That's code LOCKEDON at checkout for 15% off at athleticbrewing.com. All right, so some odd and end stuff, college football-wise, that I find fun. First of all, thank you for making Locked On Bama your first listen every day. We truly do appreciate you guys a ton. Michigan is going for win number 800 this weekend.
Wow.
Michigan is playing against Talia Tagovailoa, who you just brought up. Michigan has also decided to accept the 3-game suspension for Jim Harbaugh, which is a joke. There's no other way to put this. This is completely idiotic, is sad. It is just awful. It's a horrible look. And, I think the Big Ten could forever now just say, hey, you know what? We need to quit acting like we're better than everybody. They've always been sort of hoity-toity. Nah, not anymore. This is a joke. And that's okay. Whatever, it is what it is. But just so we all know, next time somebody gets caught cheating, if you suspend your coach 3 games, that's enough. So let's just go for that. And we all cheat. I'm fine with it, whatever. But I wish it weren't that way. I think this is just absolutely
almost worse to me than what happened, which is really significant. What happened is really significant. Almost worse to me has been Michigan's attitude about the whole thing. I mean, basically, it feels like they're proclaiming innocence, though producing zero evidence of any kind. I mean, it's almost as if, how dare you put me in jail for murder? How dare you? And well, was it self-defense? No, but you can't put me in. I mean, that Michigan's. That's got me more upset than the actual underlying thing, because everybody steals signs. I get that everybody steals signs. I know that everybody steals signs, but you can't do that. And it just doesn't seem like. I think Michigan gets it. I just think they don't care. I just think that they're literally feel like they're above sportsmanship.
Jimmy, you know what it's like? It's like being at the poker table and you spot a tell on somebody that, every time they have a good hand, they touch their nose or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's one thing to spot the tell. It's another thing when that gentleman goes to the bathroom and you look at his cards. That's
or when you're not going up against him, against the rules, you film his other hands playing against other competitors, and it's against the rules to do that. And they did it.
But, it's funny.
So it's not just the stealing signals. They violated rules, to say nothing of what I would call obvious sportsmanship, the kind of sportsmanship I'm sure that you, preach to your soccer players, because it's an important part of playing softball. I mean, playing soccer at that age, an important part of that is sportsmanship and playing with class and respecting your opponent. And that's an important part of it. Why are we cutting that out at Michigan? Why are we cutting that out in college football? There's still 18 to 22-year-olds. This isn't the Seahawks versus the Bengals. I mean, this is college football and sportsmanship in class, and the way it's supposed to be a thing.
And you also brought up Michigan's attitude about it, which it reminds me of, I think it was Eddie Murphy Raw. It was either Raw or Delirious. I get them mixed up, so I hadn't seen either one of them in a while. But where he was talking about how sometimes men, they get caught cheating by their girlfriend or wife. And he said, I have a friend that just goes, it wasn't me. She goes, well, I saw your car parked outside our house. Wasn't me. I looked right in your eyes. Wasn't me. And then she goes, maybe it wasn't you. If you just, it's not a lie if you believe it. That's the George Costanza advice of all time. And it's irritating because it's just so stupid. And then Desmond Howard's defense of all this has been comical. If you're so innocent, I get it. Look, I hate using this defense because there are a lot of times, this as a lawyer, there are a lot of times a company or an individual may settle a case because they're like, by the time I fight this with every fiber of my being and every penny I have, even if I win, I've lost. So I might as well settle for $30,000 rather than risk the financial risk of $300,000 and the reputation. So Michigan is not necessarily admitting guilt, but they're admitting guilt. But regardless, they're going for win number 1,000 too, Jimmy. I don't know if I said that at the beginning. They're going for win number 1,000. That's pretty significant because they have the most wins of anybody in college football, and kudos to them for that. And I find this interesting. I just started looking at this because Alabama is third with 962. Now, I don't even know if that includes the wins we had to vacate. I assume it doesn't, which is stupid. Let's get those back. But
yeah, is that what the NCAA is going to do 3 years from now? Is vacate some Michigan wins 3 years from now?
Yeah,
that's why everybody gets so frustrated. That's why, because it's so dumb and it doesn't mean a thing. At least the Big Ten did something, although it wasn't enough, in my opinion. But the Big Ten did something. The NCAA is going to, release a report in 2027 that says Michigan's got to forfeit their win over Michigan State, and we're vacating. What the hell was that? I mean, that it's the whole thing is, oh well, let's just play football. Let's just play football.
All right. So Alabama's at 962. Ohio State's at 963. So I'm sort of rooting against Ohio State just so we can catch up, hopefully. And Texas at 945. And then another interesting, again, maybe somebody didn't find this interesting. Auburn is going for win number 800 this weekend against New Mexico State. They should get it. They're 22.5-point favorites, but they're at 799 wins. Clemson, if you're wondering, can anybody catch Auburn, who's number 18 on the list? Clemson's at number 20 with 795. So if Clemson hadn't fallen off a cliff this year, they probably would already have caught Auburn. But they sort of stuck it up. So I look, the all-time wins thing, the reason I love all this is because it really solidifies Alabama's blue-bloodedness. And I love that. About that. So, all right. When we have our next podcast, which will be tomorrow after the Nuga game, we will begin our panic for the Iron Bowl. So be ready for the press conference after the Chattanooga game. Please join us. And until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll Tide.